Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have two amazing guests with me. We're going to be talking about healthy boundaries, how to set them, what an unhealthy boundary looks like, and just to keep ourselves safe. We have Joanna Daniel here with us and Safiya McKenzie. And whoever wants to go first, you can introduce yourselves really brief. We can begin.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna Daniel and I'm a counsellor and I live in Wales.
Great, thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Safi and I'm a designer and I live in Manchester.
Yay, thank you guys. Thank you for joining me today. So we're going to talk about boundaries, and it's something that we hear a lot. It's something that gets bounced around, boundaries, setting boundaries, but I'm not quite sure if we actually really understand what a boundary is. So what exactly is it and how can we set one?
Okay, a boundary is guidelines or rules or limits that you have around your life. That's the short answer.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's something that it's a rule that we have that guides us in also what we tolerate with people in regards to their behavior, what we accept, what we don't accept. Okay, that sounds good.
Or rules for how people interact with us and relate with us. Because if we don't have those in place, people won't know what's okay with us and what isn't okay.
That's true, yeah. And even bouncing off of that, I was gonna ask you guys, like, why is a boundary necessary? Like, why do we need one? Why do we need a boundary?
Yeah, I found like in my own life, it's helped me to take control of creating the safe space for myself.
Yeah.
In like, especially with relationships with people, but
Yeah.
also with like, things like technology as well, and social media. Yeah, it's been for like deepening my relationships, like Joanna said as well.
Of course. I feel like we kind of, when we think of a boundary, we think, oh, it's to do romantic relationships. But we forget that it's to do with friendships, family, even our co-workers, and even, like you said, interestingly enough, staff was social media. We don't feel like we need boundaries for that. That's interesting. Yeah, like why else do we think it's necessary? Like, why is it even there?
Yeah, as Saf said, they keep us safe. Boundaries keep us safe. And I like to say to people, every healthy relationship have boundaries. And that's not just romantic relationships. It's your interpersonal relationships, your friendships, your relationship with your mom, your dad, your children, the lady at church or at work, just everywhere. When you're boundaried, and those guidelines show people the way to interact with you, and it keeps the relationships healthy and safe. Boundaries also help you to, just something Steph said. Boundaries help you to spot people who are unsafe.
Yeah.
And so it stops you from allowing those people in your life and keeping you safe.
Of course, definitely. That's really good points, actually, is keeping yourself safe. And just know where you stand with people as well, I think. Because you could be doing something and the person doesn't know that you have boundaries in place and they're overstepping that. So it's important to actually voice that and just say. So an unhealthy boundary, what does that look like to you? Like, what is that exactly?
So I can see that you're thinking stuff, but the first thing that comes to mind would be people pleasing. Somebody who's a people pleaser those would be unhealthy. And I don't know if we can say unhealthy boundaries, because then you don't have any. If you're people pleaser, a codependent person, that means you allow people to do anything they want, and you don't have any guidelines around how people interact with you. And because you want to be liked, sometimes we also, even though sometimes we might try to implement boundaries, but the need to be like is so strong that we would ignore our own boundaries and do something that we really don't want to do or feel like we should do or are capable of doing, because we want to be liked. So those are what some unhealthy boundaries might look like.
Of course, definitely.
I think it's kind of triggered by like you said, looking for external validation from people. You don't have that that foundation in yourself to know, like, even if because I've noticed sometimes when you set boundaries, people can not be happy with your choices.
Sure.
But it's like knowing that like that's what you need to thrive in life. is super important. And then also kind of internal boundaries, because I know there's times when I haven't, like, I know that I should have space to decompress after work or something, but then I just keep going, and like that's, again, I haven't set a boundary in my life between like work and play.
Mm.
That I realized, like, that can really burn you out as well.
Yeah, that's so important, because I wrote a post yesterday for Facebook that says, don't wait until you're on the edge of a meltdown to do, and I didn't use those words, but don't wait until you're on the edge to do self-care. Make it a regular part of your routine.
Yeah.
And that's a boundary with self. Like, I'm boundary myself, and I'm not going to burn out. I'm going to regularly interject these things in my life so that I can be okay.
Yeah, and you can be the best version of yourself. You have to take care of yourself so you can give the best version of yourself to people, and for yourself too. You have to be the best version for you, which is also important. So yeah, it's not. So what I'm learning so far is that boundaries isn't just your relationship with other people; it's also with yourself. And that's also important. It's something that we tend to forget because, like you said, Joanna and Saf, like, you know, we can easily burn out and we just carry on. And you know, there's people who we had a client one time and they were saying, oh, they just soldier on through hard times, just keep going. And you're kind of thinking, yeah, okay, you're a strong person for doing that. And then you kind of have to sit back and think, I don't think that's a bit healthy, because you're going to burn out after a while. You're not in touch with your feelings, you're not in touch with what's going on with you, and soldiering on with things, it may seem a strong thing to do, but it's actually damaging to you.
That's something I learned recently. I think even over the past weeks, where like sometimes your boundaries are different to someone else's. And then you have to honor your own boundaries. So someone might be like, that's not normal, like, or I don't need 3 hours to like decompress or to start my day and reflect. But for you, because of your life or like what you've experienced, that's important for you to thrive. And then so it's like listening internally to what helps you specifically. It's like different for each person.
100%. That's so important. As well, I think what comes to mind for me in an unhealthy boundary is not being able to say no, and the guilt that comes with saying no. And oftentimes, like Joanna said, we're people pleasers. We want to make people feel happy and okay, and make sure we're pleasing everybody, but that's not healthy either. And then half the time we, you know, do say yes to things that we should say no to. And afterwards we feel tired and it's just a jarring thing. Do you know what I mean? We just feel really drained and we're just thinking, why did I say yes to this? You know, we have that kind of resentment and that guilt to be like, oh, well, you know, I should have said no, but then at the same time I helped this person, or I did this and I did a great thing. So yeah, just looking at even the guilt of setting boundaries, that's also another, you know, a crazy thing, not being able to say no. We don't feel the need or that empowerment to say no.
Well, that's one of the hallmark of healthy boundaries, that it negates against the guilt of other people's negative feelings because you say no.
Yeah.
So when you have healthy boundaries, then there's no guilt.
Yeah.
There's no guilt when you say no, because and I suppose it's a place that people get to, that they work through. If you realize that you have a difficulty to say no, then you work through why do I feel guilty when I say no? But there is is there an echo?
There's a feedback somewhere, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's good. Go on.
Right. There's a way to negate against that by, you know, the guilt. When you have healthy boundaries, then the guilt goes with it.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, Saf, do you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just thinking that that's so true. Like you feel confident in the decision that you made.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from building that relationship with yourself and give yourself space to just accept how you are, like how you think, how you see the world, and that it might be different, but it's your experience. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the person who they feel that guilt because they feel if they say no, they're not being a nice person. They're usually nice, they're usually helping people, they're very helpful, friendly, and someone just basically keeps using them. And it could be, for example, if they don't speak to them in class, if they're in school or college or uni, and they're only coming to them because they're getting good grades in class and they need help, but then they don't talk to them outside of that. Or a person's asking you for money, and because you feel as though, okay, I need to be nice and helpful, you're helping them, but they don't have a relationship with you outside of asking for help. So what would you say to the person who is in that kind of position? They feel as though I'm a nice person, you know, I can't say no. I feel really bad and guilty, but I need to set healthy boundaries. What can they do?
I think that would be a really sad circumstance. And what I would say to the person struggling with that kind of situation is that you are worth more.
Yeah.
And those are not people that should really be in your life, whoever they are.
Yeah.
They're taking advantage, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
That you're worthy of having people who can accept your no and won't question it and won't push back against it. And even if you say no, that they will still be in your life. You are worthy of friends that's gonna like you just for you.
Yeah.
Because you're worthy of that. You're likable. You have good character qualities that is lovable. You're obviously loyal because you're nice and you're giving. People are taking advantage of that nice giving nature that you have. And because of your worth, I want to encourage you to learn how to say no and not let them take advantage of your loyalty and your niceness and your just the spirit that you have.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say to her. You're worthy of having different kinds of people in your life.
Of course. That's such a beautiful thing as well. Thank you.
That's so beautiful and needed. Like, I feel like something someone said, I can't remember, like a couple of years ago, I was having a conversation about it, and they were saying like it's really important for you just to stop and ask yourself like what, not what do you gain, but like, yeah, like what do I gain from this friendship? Like what do I need in my relationships? Like what makes me feel safe, and what do I like? Because most times I think when someone's taking advantage, like you don't really consider your own needs at all.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like considering your own needs is selfish.
Yeah.
No.
But it's like there's a pendulum, right? And you're like all the way on this side and you're trying to get to the center. So actually asking yourself, like, what do I actually need? Or like, what makes me feel free in relationships and stuff. And then, yeah, also just like, I feel like when you do things with good intention and you communicate it, you're not really responsible for the other person's feelings or for making them lie. And that's a big lesson for me when I realized, like, as long as I'm doing good intentions and I communicate it, if the other person reacts a completely different way, then I don't need to carry that. Like, I can still care about them, and you know what I mean. But
yeah, that's so important. And even like in family dynamics as well, I mean, it's easier to say to friends, you know, X, Y, Z. When it comes to family, and when you live with them, like, you know, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, that kind of thing, grandparents, that kind of thing. Having those boundaries in place, how would you implement that? Because you don't want to seem disrespectful or rude. Yeah, it's just the same rule apply. You know, with friends, you know, what do you do?
The same rule apply. I know certain cultures it's more difficult to do it, more challenging, especially if there's no examples of boundaries coming down. If you don't see the people above you doing it, then it might be harder for you to do it in an environment where you live with them. But I would say, and that's why if you're new to boundaries, you need support to set them. That's what I say. You need support to walk beside you as you implement them. So as you have your support, It might be a group, a support group. It might be your counselor. It might be a very good friend who have boundaries themselves and understand the circumstance, who will stay with you. So it's a place where you can go talk about it, talk about what it feels like, cry if you need to, and go back and try again.
Yeah.
But it's the same principle. And people might push back at your boundaries because they're not used to it, and you're changing, and they don't want you to change. They want you to stay the same because it suits them.
Yes.
But it doesn't work for you. And as you do it, what you're doing is you're training them how to respond to you in a different way. And it might be difficult, but it will work out in the end. So don't stop doing, keep going.
Of course, 100%. So also, within unhealthy boundaries, people feel the need to be fixers. They want to fix people and save people. And I feel like that's interesting. They feel as though they're the saviors, and they feel as if they need to be saying yes, 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 fix, 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 save, 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 when in reality they're going to burn out in the end. Do you know what I mean? They're so busy helping the people when they don't have that help themselves.
But here's a good guideline, and Saf said it earlier. Like when you boundaried yourself, you know that you can't fix or save anyone. And that's a really good guideline. So when you're starting to implement boundaries, do it with yourself first, and make this a rule. Write it where you can say it. I can't fix anyone and I can't save anyone. You just can't.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. And one of the things that you may need to investigate is, because sometimes, Shantonia, the need to be needed is so great.
Yes.
That we do it for those reasons. And you have to really think about the fact that you're not doing it for the person. You're not trying to save them. You're trying to make yourself feel good. And so that's why the boundaries with self is necessary and needed. Like, do I need this to make me feel good? And if you need it to make you feel good, then you need to address that.
Yes, 100%. So what are some tips then? Because you've spoken about unhealthy boundaries, what they are. What are some good tips that, people can implement as to what a healthy boundary looks like? How can they set healthy boundaries for themselves and, implement that in their lives for other people and for family as well?
I think like one thing that's really helped me doing this is having like, I guess people express themselves differently.
Yeah.
But having a diary or journal, or it can even be like a private online blog where like you just write, like getting your thoughts out and being able to actually not just be in your head about, because I feel like when you're kind of in that codependent state, anyone's emotions are just slapping you this way, that way, anyway. So I feel like it's really helpful to just have a space where you can just write, doodle, get your thoughts out without any judgment.
Yeah.
Start to develop that like relationship with yourself where you can express how you're feeling about things.
Of course.
And like Joanne said, even having slogans like "I'm not responsible for someone else's feelings," like "I can't fix people," that reinforcing that to like change your core values as well.
Absolutely.
And even
sorry, that's so great, because one of the things when I'm teaching people about boundaries, I first go look for values. What are your values? What are the things that are important to you? And when we find those things that are important to them, then the boundaries, those become the foundation for the boundaries.
Yes.
And one key thing is, as we said, you're not responsible, but also don't take it personally when people push against your boundaries, because sometimes when they push, we might feel shame and we might want to, go give them what they want because we take it personally. Don't take it personally.
Yeah, of course. And also it's also about knowing your limits, knowing what you accept, knowing how much you can tolerate. And once you know what your limits are, it's so much more easier for you to be like, okay, I tolerate this, I don't tolerate this. And it's also another healthy foundation for you to set healthy boundaries for yourself and with other people. So what else could we do?
I think another thing that really helped was I think another thing that really helped was just learning to be more still, because I found at times when I was like running around the place, I was just constantly distracted.
Yeah.
And when I got to a place where I slowed down more, even if it was just like not listening to music and just like being with still your thoughts, then you can kind of think, oh, like, what things do I do in my life that make me feel better about myself? Like, what things make me feel peaceful? And then I discovered new things, like going on walks really helps, especially in lockdown, to just help me feel better. But if I'm just constantly distracted, I'm not really like paying attention to the things that speak to me. But when I did do that, I kind of knew what things were good and bad for like me, for me just in my life in a way.
That's great.
I think as well, it's also tuning into your feelings, knowing what makes you feel uncomfortable, knowing what, you know, also what may cause resentment. For example, you may say yes to something when you should have said no, and then you're probably feeling resentment and thinking, oh, I should have said no to this. Do you know what I mean? And then you're feeling that guilt and shame and all those kind of feelings come back. So I think it's making sure you recognize your feelings, know what's making you feel uncomfortable, and just saying no to that. You know, you have the power to say no. It's such a powerful word, and it's something that we need to start saying a lot more often instead of saying yes. Also, another one is being direct. I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, because if you're direct to somebody, then they're able to know, okay, well, she doesn't want me to do this, or do you know what I mean? Like, they're able to know exactly what you stand for, what you're not putting up with, what you don't tolerate with, and it makes communication a lot more easier. Communication is so important. Once you learn to communicate, whether it's with your family, friends, and co-workers, even with yourself, being direct, it can be hard at first, but just being direct with yourself, with people, it makes things a lot more easier. And what else? I'm trying to think. I wrote some things down as well. Oh yes, self-care. I think we kind of mentioned this when Saf mentioned about, you know, having those boundaries with yourself, being able to rest and taking time out for yourself, whether it's lighting a candle, putting on fairy lights, running a bath, you know, speaking to plants, you know, doing something that makes you feel relaxed and present with yourself. Checking in with yourself as well is so important, checking in what you're feeling, what your feelings are, and yeah, it just helps you feel a lot more better, a lot more fired, you know, to give your best self to people and for you. So anything else that you guys want to pick out on what's healthy?
Well, I'd say be specific about what you want, because sometimes don't frame it in a question. Because sometimes people frame it in a question and somebody said no, and I thought, well, you asked a question. You know, don't frame it in a, would you like to, do you mind if I, no, just say it. Just be specific about what you want. If you want somebody to not call you after 9 o'clock, say, please don't call me after 9 p.m. Or I won't respond to you after 9 p.m.
Right.
If you want a boundary, your resources in terms of your personal space, say, please don't come to my home before you call first. I'd rather you ring before you come, you know, things like that. Please ring me before you come. Just don't turn up. All right. My coach has a sign that she put on her door that says, if you ring before you come, I might let you in. That means if you don't ring before you come, I won't. Be specific. Be specific about what you want and what you require of other people.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to be like, I remember back in the day, I was like, oh my days, what if they react the wrong way? And now it's more like, it's like you said, it's like, it's not really what you say, it's how you say it. Like, you can say, this is my voice, like the way you say it to the person can just numb that blow for them. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, just it really helps to just not be so concentrated on like not saying something, and instead just the way you put it across is just like equally as important, and they can understand that you love and care for them while you set the boundary. Like, it's not black and white.
Yeah. And I think it's respecting those boundaries. If you put those boundaries in place, also stick with it. I think that's important as well. If you set a boundary, like you said, for example, call before you come to my house, if people are getting funny about it, that's their problem. It's not your issue. But don't be switching times or changing things around to suit other people, because again, you're going to fall into that whole yes person, and you want to start implementing no in a good way. Yeah, and also as well, get support if you can. Like Joanna said, you know, if you want to go to counselling or speak to friends, family, have a support group, even having a coach, a life coach may also help you to set good boundaries in place, and knowing how to set them, and how to continue with that. Anything else quickly before we wrap up? Any lasting words?
No, it's that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing.
Of course, definitely. Anything for you, Saf? Any lasting words?
Yeah, just being still can really help, and just listening to your body, listening to even your heart rate. Like, you kind of know when that boundary is violated, your gut reaction is like your body actually knows that you're being violated. So just listen a bit more, like, in those moments. Like, just trust in that.
Of course.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And yeah, like I said, you know, seek help if you need it. There's help out there to set boundaries, and speak to people as well, and stick with the boundaries that you set. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Also, if anyone wants to find you, I know, Joanna, you have a new book out, Shattered But Not Broken.
Yes.
I still need to buy the book. I still need to read it. But where can they find that book?
They can find the book at shatteredbutnotbroken.com, and they can also learn more about the book at shatteredbutnotbroken.com.
That's great. Also, guys, Joanna has a YouTube channel, which is great. It's amazing. She also has really good tips on mental health, and even things like this. So make sure you subscribe to her channel, you like her videos, you share them. And where can they find your channel again, Joanna? What's it called?
It's just Joanna Daniel.
Okay, that's great.
My channel is Joanna Daniel.
Yeah.
Now, Wounds and Scars is the Facebook page, but
Okay.
the channel is just Joanna Daniel.
That's great. Saf, what about you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Safmac, so SAFFMACC. So yeah.
That's great. And obviously, I'm here. Also, all these links will be in the description box below. So please look out for that. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with people who you know who may need to know how to set boundaries, and healthy ones. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Bye.